What's up, YouTube? It's Monty, and today I'm back again with another reading vlog, this time for First Become Ashes by Cam Spera. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be asking yourself, Monty, you did not like Docile. Docile was on your worst books of 2020 video. Why would you read the follow-up? Well, much like I thought that Seven Husbands was racist trash, I feel like this might be not racist trash. I'm going on a limb, and I'm gonna hope that this is, Mr. Spera just writing about some regular people that are white, that ain't got no kind of racism. All I know is I think our main character in this one was in a cult at some point, and that the story is them after being in the cult. This does have trigger warnings for rape, consent violations in general, and abuse, according to the first page. There's also sexual content. I don't know if that's really a trigger, but sexual content will be in this. That part doesn't surprise me because Docile was just an excuse to write, slave fic. So, and poorly. Well, I won't say poorly written, because I will say that Docile was compulsively readable, but at the same time, poorly executed, maybe. Although not according to N.K. Jemisin, because N.K. Jemisin is all up on the cover. She blurbed it. She says that Spera is the rare author able to tackle trauma and healing without flinching. I would not say that anybody healed in Docile, so I'm hoping that there was like a little arc where the person who was being abused was supposed to be healing, but at the same time, like, he was getting with his abuser, and it was supposed to be like this thing where it's like, the world isn't black and white, you can kind of get back with your abuser. And I thought that was really an odd decision, because I don't think that we saw the abuser growing in Docile. What we saw was the abuser get bored because he had done his job too good. Now his abusee was too obedient, and he didn't really get to abuse him anymore because there was no more punishments to be had. I thought that book definitely needed to be longer for the story we're trying to tell. So I don't know if I would agree with this blurb, but maybe in First Become Ashes, because again, like I said, the character was in a cult, now they're not in a cult. Maybe we'll get that moment. I don't know. I'm not going to judge. But it is rather short, so I'm hoping I'll be able to fly through this and that this won't be another feature length. Like, y'all will just get to enjoy this like a normal person. So I'm going to take off the dust jacket. I'm going to go... I think I heard the oven. So I think I'm going to go put my food in the oven, and I'll check back in with you guys later. I probably will check in at the halfway point because it is only 300 pages. And then I will check in when I finish the book. So here's the thing about this little First Become Ashes. Have we improved? No. The first thing I want to say is that I think that there is something, I don't want to say inherently wrong, but something that just that's like picking at my spirit. And I really hate that now in both of Cam's books, our protagonists, these people we're following, are having these here's what I think that in both books, Cam Spera links this BDSM situation to having to have undergone violent sexual traumas. And I think that is just wrong. I think that you can enjoy BDSM and not have been sexually violated in these inherent just extremely violent ways. And it's not to say that you can't have experienced sexual trauma and then come to a place where you enjoy a BDSM type, sadomasochistic things, bondage things. You can enjoy those things and having suffered them. But the way that they're linked in both of his books just rubs my spirit in a way that I don't appreciate. But we're gonna rewind a little bit so I can actually give kind of a little synopsis of what has happened in the first 52% of this book. So I was correct in saying that we do follow a main character that is leaving a cult. So Meadowlark does not leave the cult by choice. We start off the book and we're going about their day, their life. We find out that one of the cult members, Cain, is being sent out into the world to like do the culty mission. More on that in a moment. And then Meadowlark is like sad because him and Cain were like really close. They had essentially been raised together. They were in at least a very emotionally romantic relationship, because as we come to find out later, like they aren't really allowed to have sex really. And so they are invested with one another. And so it's really hard on Meadowlark or on Lark because they were really close to Cain. Then like around chapter 3, the FBI raids the compound and takes Lark to a motel where they are trying to like, I actually don't even know what the fuck they're trying to do, because a lot of what the FBI is doing seems counterintuitive to like what people actually do in self-destructive cults. I mean, I guess because Cain, we find out, had defected and like gone and was there and like was filling in the FBI on some crimes, I could understand why they had raided the compound. But like most of those like podcast episodes do not end with FBI raids, and historically FBI raids on cult compounds usually end in like mass suicides, murders. So like this mass debriefing in a motel automatically doesn't feel like right or accurate. So Lark is there in the motel trying to be debriefed, doing whatever he can because he still wants to escape. And he does. And he finds himself with Calvin, who is a professional cosplayer. Okay. And his friend Lillian, who I think has like another job, but we know that Lillian also had podcasts. And so Lillian and Calvin get wrapped up in Lark trying to go on this questy quest and like finish his mission. And I have to say that I actually hate Calvin the most. Lark to me is still like cultified, you know, he is still in that brainwashed mentality because that's what he was raised to do. So him thinking he has magic and can do all of these things, fine. But the way that Calvin, like normal people wanting to believe in magic, fine. Like if the people watching this want to believe in magic, great, I love that for you. But to go to someone who is in a cult and like, I don't want to say that you should like, you know, immediately try and explain to them all the ways that they are wrong about the world. But I feel like Calvin is, I don't want to say indulging to, like, I don't have the word, but whatever Calvin is doing, I don't think is like the right way. It actually feels a little gross to me. I feel like, maybe it's like closer to an enabling, but I understand that like when you're in a cult, it takes a lot for you to like come out of it. So like there's a fine line there. And I don't think that Calvin is on the line. I think that Calvin is definitely in the unhealthy side of that line, and he wants to be on the healthy side. And I just don't think that's really working out for him at all. And the book also is told in multiple perspectives. So we do get Calvin, which is why I'm saying he's on the unhealthy side of the line, because I'm in his head, I'm seeing his thoughts, and I feel like there's a balance that he is just not hitting. Like he is just not, it's not happening. I'm sorry, it's just not. Then we also get flashbacks with Cain, which seem to take place prior to the events that are unfolding in everybody else's chapters. And all of Cain's confidential chapters are him chronicling the abuse that was happening with the Fellowship of the Anointed. In the first chapter, we talk about how, again, we got the glimpse into the sexual trauma where, I don't know why I'm laughing, but he had to like burn, like he was holding a metal rod into the fire and then had to burn Lark's flesh, and that's how they heal, that's how they regenerate, they recharge their magic. So while the page at the beginning said that there was going to be abuse in the book, I would say that a lot of this is actually self-harm. Like obviously Cain doing that to Lark is abusive, but now that Lark is free, he's having to do to himself because there's no one there to do the rituals with him. He has to do them by himself. And so there are definite instances of self-harm in this book. And I feel like if that is going to trigger you, then you need to know that. Like, it's not just blanket to be like, we are self-harming here. A lot of this seems to involve burning flesh. So that was a thing. And then in this most recent confidential chapter, we had the cult leader literally milking Cain for his cum, like forcing the man to continuously ejaculate. And I just don't understand. Again, I knew that there was going to be consent violations. I knew that, but like, and I know that it's a cult and like that kind of a thing happens in cults. So like, sure, I'll give it to Cam Sparrow. But at the same time, I'm also like, having just about every sexual encounter that this man be rape is just weird. Like, it's weird. Like, I feel like people who read adult science fiction fantasy, I don't know why I said science fiction, like adult fantasy, often talk about how characters are just getting raped for like all the time. And I feel like Cam Sparrow is doing that. Like, for what? I don't understand. I truly wish that I could wrap my head around it. I really thought that because we were going I don't know what I thought. I truly don't know what I thought. I think that I was wanting this to be better. I think that, again, Jemison on the cover, her little blurb talking about we're going to tackle trauma and healing. I don't think any of these characters are healing. Like, Lark is still in the middle of his trauma, so there's going to be no healing for him in 300 pages because he hasn't even accepted that he was raised to believe things that aren't, I won't say that aren't real, but like he was manipulated, that he was abused for 24 years, 9 months, and 13 days or whatever. So I don't understand how he's healing. Cain, I guess you could argue, is trying to heal, but all of his moments that we get of him, like we see him in other people's perspectives, but his perspective is just all of his trauma lined up in a little row and like we're gonna knock them down like dominoes. And I think the other character is Darren, and they are, like I said, they're Lark's sibling. They share parents, and Darren, I think you could argue, is sort of maybe working through their healing. But most of this, I'm not seeing the healing. We are 52%. They are on the run from the FBI, which again, I don't see if that's going to work out for them. I'm also really confused about the magic. For me, I definitely believe that it's all in Lark's head, but I also think that Cam Sparrow is doing this thing where they're deliberately trying to like toe the line, where it's like maybe it's in their head, maybe it's not in their head. I don't like that. It's not the kind of thing that I want at all. Sorry. Again, it's kind of like how Docile didn't feel like science fiction, but it was published by Tor.com. They put the spaceship on it, so it's science fiction. And this is like, we're saying there's magic, so Tor.com, like maybe it's fantasy, like maybe, but it's also like a cult, so like it's that kind of a vibe. And then you have Calvin over here, who again is enabling. It's just, I wanted this. I knew that this was going to be questionable because of that now deleted tweet where they were out here, once again with their fuckery promoting a Cam Sparrow book. I haven't seen Tor. Well, do I still follow? I think I still follow Tor.com on Twitter. I'd have to check. I don't know. So I haven't seen anybody doing those kind of things about this. I haven't seen anybody talk about this book, actually. So the fact that that I'm here, Tor is really gonna hate me now, but I just wanted something better. And I can't, like, at least in Docile, like, if we just remove the context of the scenes being rape, the sex was well written. And here, it's like, maybe because it's not as big a part, like, for whatever reason, Docile was like, everybody's fucking every 3 pages. And here, the sex is, again, not happening, which, again, like, I appreciate. But now it's, like, really, it's not even slapping. Like, at least in the first book, I said, this man is writing rape. It is weird, but it was well written. Here, I think that all of the book is kind of poorly written. It's not even as compulsively readable. I said in the intro to this that Docile was a compulsively readable book. I sat down. I think I read that also in like a day. And then I came and I made that video for you all. Compulsively readable. I was disgusted a lot of the time, but I did not want to put it down. First Become Ashes is a much shorter book and it feels much longer. It does not feel as like we're running through it. So I actually hate that for me. Like, I hate that for me. But also no one's talking about this. So he like made this big splash with Docile. Everybody I remember was talking about it. Everybody wanted to read Docile. Then it kind of fizzled out. And I don't think anyone's gonna read this book. And at this point, I would almost recommend that you read Docile. Like, that's where I'm at. So 2021 is a crazy year, but I've been rambling for 13 minutes and I wanted to keep this short. So that's pretty much everything that's happened in the first half of the book. I'm going to go ahead right now and say that we will be spoiling for the remaining 48%. I'm not going to make this a spoiler-free reading vlog situation. So if you continue after this clip and you stay tuned to the end, just know that I will be spoiling. It just is what it is. We are done. We have finished this book. I have to say that I cannot say it's the worst book I read this year because I had to DNF Utopia Avenue. I'll leave a link to that reading vlog up in the cards. But this, and I also want to retract. I want to retract. I think that I, in a fit of delusion, recommended that y'all go out and read Docile. Now, is Docile better than whatever the fuck this was? Yes. But still don't read that book. If you are gonna read it, get it from your library. I just suffering. Okay, so let's talk. I know I said in the last clip that we were going to go into spoilers, so we are going to spoil some stuff. Although there isn't really a whole lot to spoil. A lot of like the arc that happens here is just so not believable. Like you have Lark who stabs a federal agent or a SWAT member. I guess that could just be like regular old Baltimore police who aren't shit, like you're not gonna catch me defending the police, but like Lark did commit a crime. Then he was like running around the country. He was assaulting other people. Like, this man would be locked up. Like, the height of white privilege that this man just leaves the cult, assaults federal agents, assaults the police, not one shot. Like, not, like, he was shot at once, I guess, and like Calvin, like, what, did Lark get grazed? I think Lark was actually grazed by the bullet. But the fact that this, like, man actually did not die, was actually not arrested, got to, like, end the book happy and in love and, like, in this cute little triad. White priv, like, again. And we're in Baltimore. Like, we are back in Baltimore. We are back in here. Like, arrest him. But what I really actually wanted to talk about first was Kane. Again, I'm gonna tell you this right now. If you do not want to read about traumatic sexual assault, skip change chapters. They are like supposed to like lay the base for him seeing that the Fellowship of the Anointed is like kind of fucked up, like kind of the fuckery that's going on behind the scenes. Like maybe his feelings are accurate and like they aren't really like this is occulter stuff. Just don't read them because they really only contain graphic depictions of rape. Just for rape as motivation. And what really sent me over the edge, I will try to leave a screenshot of a tweet that I posted here. There was a scene where Lark was selected to like do a special ritual. Now, mind you, in the last Kane chapter, we found out that the special ritual for him was being bolted to the floor while the cult leader literally drained him of cum, repeatedly forcing him to ejaculate. weirdness. So he's like, that's gonna happen to Lark. You know, he's Lark's protector. He doesn't want that to happen to Lark. And instead what we get is Lark being raped by this old man. And eventually Kane is also like, this is fucked, like I should, like, we need to stop him. And the old man is like excommunicated or whatever. But the first thing that Kane does is go, I wish that was my dick in Lark's mouth. And I'm like, this boy, because I think I guess like the milking started when Kane was 20. So, Lark could have also been 20, or it could have been like 19, depending on like when in the year or whatever this fell. This person is over here being raped, and you are like, that's my partner, I want him. Like, what? I was stunned. I will also say that Lark and Elisha are like the same person. Like, exactly the same person. And and Alex and Kane are not really the same person. I do think that Alex was kind of split into Kane and Calvin in this one. There was a moment in this where Calvin's friend Lillian, the only sane person in the book, so shout out to her, she was like, you are enabling this man. Like, you are enabling Lark to continue on this self-destructive path. Like, you are just not at all helping him. Like, you should be helping him, and you are not helping him. This is after Lark had, they were on the highway trying to get out. They were in, I think, like Arkansas or something, and they were driving on the highway, and there was like this showdown between Lark and Miller, who was the FBI agent that was on their trail with Darren, and Kane was also in that little group with Miller. And Lark wound up shooting Kane in the leg with an arrow, trying to kill Miller. So again, all of this shit, Lark should be in a prison cell. So eventually Lillian and Kane ditch them, and she takes Kane to a hospital because he was shot in his fucking leg with an arrow. And Lark is over here talking about, oh, I'm gonna heal him with magic. The magic we're gonna get back to. And so she's like, she's texting Calvin, is like, you are literally not helping this man. Like, you are not, like what I was saying in the first clip. And I was like, the only sane person. And then the book doubles down on this magic thing. So let's talk about this, because I think for a lot of the book, you're not supposed to believe that the magic is real, that it's part of like this cult behavior. And then in the second half of the book, it's kind of like, it doubles down on that, but then it also like redoubles down on like the magic is actually real, and it kind of just exists in this limbo-y space for the reader to determine, like, is it real? Is it not real? Like, does it matter if it's real? And it feels like it's only written that way to exist in this weird, like, speculative fiction because we're with Tor. And it's just like, this is like, either give me magic and a cult or don't. And I think that because none of this book is too short for it to be this gray. I don't think any of the themes are well positioned, are well executed. And I think that, I don't know the length of the novel that K.M. Sperza turned in. I don't know if he turned in a long novel and it got cut down. I don't know if he turned in like 350 pages and they only cut like a couple. But whatever the case is, this book needed to be substantially longer to do what they were doing, to explore the things that they wanted to explore. Because again, all of the healing that N.K. Jemisin promised me when they wanted to blurb the cover, when they wanted to come back to bat for Mr. Sperza, is not there. It's not there. If you wanted to like use the Calvin chapter in like the much later section where you can see that Lark is still struggling to adjust and like you can kind of see his potential of like a growth arc. I think that both of K.M. Sperza's book do this thing where there is no resolution in the resolution, and I think that it's meant to, for like the reader to just kind of go with what they want, which is fine. But I know that as soon as I start like the last time I did this in like Docile and we criticized Docile, then they did the whole little book tour where they wanted to kind of explain away and they wanted to inject their intention. And it's like, you don't get to have it both ways. You cannot present the audience with a book that ends in this weird way and then try to inject your intention in some author interviews later. Either give us an actual roadmap to the intention, or don't leave it so open-ended. Like, it doesn't make sense to me the way this book ends. I do not think that it ends very well, and I think that, again, unlike Docile, this book is not compulsively readable. In fact, it is oftentimes boring to get through. Things happen in jumps and starts that don't make any sense and are often uncomfortable to read. Like, there's this whole scene where Calvin and Lark are about to have like a sexual experience, and it's coming off of us reading about how Lark had been repeatedly raped in the commune, and Calvin has continuously, like, again, enabled this man. And so it's hard for the reader to be like, yes, Calvin, who's like an outsider, you should be intimate with Lark in this way. It's hard to root for that relationship, because from where I'm standing, Calvin is not a good person for Lark to be with in this present moment, when he is still trying to like work through all of these things. And so in that moment when Calvin is, he's not taking advantage of Lark, I would say. He is trying to like distance himself and not push Lark like more than Lark is comfortable with. But it doesn't sit well with me, and it oftentimes reminded me of reading Docile, where I don't think there are very few consensual acts that happened in Docile, and it felt very similar here. And it just was not like, I don't understand why. So after 2 failed attempts for me to connect with the Cam Spares the book, I think it's time for me to call it quits. I gave Karen and McManus 3 tries. I don't think I can do that again, especially when Cam Spares' books are significantly more heavy than like a Karen and McManus, who's like a lighthearted YA thriller. Like, these are very intense books where characters are repeatedly traumatized, they're repeatedly brutalized, like violent actions happen to them just for the sake of them happening, and then they're often tied into like how that character is meant to perceive pleasure, and there's very little examination of that, even though it continues to happen. So I think that's obviously a theme that Cam Spares finds illuminating to some degree, but I don't think that they have ever executed that idea of this pleasure and this pain thing very well. And I don't think I can sit through a 3rd book exploring that same theme in a similarly poor fashion. So I am not going to give this a star rating, just because I don't know even like where to begin with a star rating for whatever this was. I do wish it were longer. I do wish that Lillian had been a point of view character. Darren, at the end of the day, was probably my favorite point of view character, because they were, at least, you could see them struggling to still overcome what they had learned in the Fellowship of the Anointed, but they were also very much still in that mindset of having been there for so long. So like, their character, I felt I would have loved to see more of. I would have liked to have gotten more from Miller's perspective, especially after that revelation that happened in the second half, where they had a connection to the Fellowship of the Anointed outside of just like an academic person who was like studied them or whatever. So like, I wish they had had some moments. And again, I do think that this book this is like off center. I just noticed that. But again, I wish it had been longer, because I think that even if I didn't get Miller's perspective in a longer book, I think that some of the story could have been fleshed out a little bit better. Again, the way that some of like Calvin's like call to action was like a weird ABC weekend movie moment that I didn't buy. I didn't believe people would come together like that. It definitely continues themes from Docile. It explores them again, and I don't think it offers any better examination, other than the fact that no one here seems to be a person of color. This seems to be a very white story. I mean, maybe I missed something. I did read it rather quickly. It is entirely possible. If I did miss it, nothing was overtly racist this time, so he does get credit for that. He still uses he, him pronouns, right? Yes, okay. So in that sense of, I think in this in the intro to this, I said, I just don't want it to be racist, essentially. And it's not. I don't get those vibes. But much like I did in my second Wheel of Time book when I was reviewing, what is that? Whatever that was. I'll leave that linked up in the cards. And the title of that video was Does Improvement Matter? I don't think improvement matters here either, because in some ways, like, the writing isn't composed, like, it's not, first book was better. The even like the it doesn't, like, I've come to the same conclusion that sometimes you can improve and yet also stay the same. It's odd. I can't articulate it. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap that up here. Thanks for watching. If you made it into the video, leave this emoji down in the comment section. I will see all of you again at some point with another video. But until then, and until next time, bye.